Hey Phil, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
So, for the viewers that don't know you yet, can you please introduce yourself?
So, my name's Philippe Edmonds. I'm 21 years old from Toronto, Canada, and I've played with Kareem at A and B before, and that's how we built our relationship.
Yeah. And where are you right now, bro?
I've currently signed to play for a professional side in Wales called Bangor City.
Nice. Congratulations again. And how's the weather right now?
Thank you. Currently, the weather is probably like 15 degrees and cloudy.
It's cold outside?
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah. All right. So I have six fun questions to start with. Uh, Obviously, not to break the ice since we already know each other, but who's your favorite team? Liverpool.
My favorite team's Liverpool. My dad's from there, so he's raised me to be a Liverpool supporter ever since I could understand what football was.
Yeah. What about your favorite player?
Favorite player of all time has to be Steven Gerrard. Um, Obviously, when I was growing up, he was the captain of Liverpool, so he was the one that I was always watching, and he'd just take games by the scruff of the neck when needed, and he would change the match, and he was a big leader and a good role model. So yeah, I have to say Stevie G.
Stevie G. Favorite pair of boots?
Oh man, favorite pair of boots. I've absolutely wrecked them and I still keep them. It's the Mercurial Flyknit Ultras that I had.
Yeah.
And like I've never found anything more comfortable. And they're like limited, so I can't even find a new pair to go buy. But I've worn those into the ground. Those are like the most comfortable, seamless pair of boots I've ever had.
Nice. And what's your most memorable soccer moment in your life?
Oh wow. That's a very tough question. I think my most memorable soccer moment is my first game at Anfield. Um, I was out in Wales actually with some family, and then my dad and I left the family and drove a couple hours, got into Liverpool, and we went to watch the last game of the season. And that was my first match at Anfield. That was my first professional match to go watch. And we watched Spurs against Liverpool. Liverpool won 3-1. And it was also the last day that Sami Hyypiä was playing for Liverpool. So there was like all this emotion with the fans, with the team. They did a whole lap around, and everyone was honoring him. Everyone was pleased with the season Liverpool just had. Um, yeah, that was a pretty memorable and good moment.
Who's the home field? Who had home field advantage of that day?
Liverpool at Anfield.
So at Anfield, what's the capacity of the stadium?
Oh,
Otherwise,
now that they've done some renovations, I think it's around 70, 80,000.
so you guys had like around 70,000 people in the stadium. How was the atmosphere? Talk a little bit about that.
The atmosphere was unbelievable. Honestly, I've been to Anfield a couple times since, and every time you go, you just get goosebumps. Like the crowd at Anfield, especially, is just so loud, so vibrant. They like bounce off each other, and and it just feels electric within the stadium. Whether they're quiet, whether they're singing, like it always just feels like there's a hum within the grounds.
Right. It's a
Yeah.
whole experience, and I mean, for the viewers that haven't experienced something like that, especially getting at. Long story short, I spoke to another. His name's Alex. I spoke to Alex, founder of UKFootballContacts.com, and he talked about going to stadiums at a young age.
Hmm.
I never got to experience it until like I was 12. But you have people living in England from a young age being able to experience these things and see these players live and see the fans and everything like that. Do you think there's an advantage to that?
Yeah, I think it really inspires as well. Like it's not just like you can watch football on TV and you can be interested in it, but really being there does change your perspective, and it makes it feel like more of a sense of community. And I feel like being raised in Canada compared to when I first came here with you, and we got to experience that football life at what? How old were we? 17 years old, 18 years old.
18, yep.
it really hit me like that in Canada we kind of experience it, whereas over here it's a culture and you live it,
Mm,
right? The matches in Europe being on when they are in the evening, it's only on in the afternoon in Canada or in the morning in Canada. So more times you're gonna like wake up if it's on the weekend and it's an early Premier League match, for example, you're gonna sit with your family or by yourself and watch it. Whereas like here, everyone's off and it's later in the day because of the time difference, so everyone goes. You're either going out to your friends and everyone's there, or you're going to the pub, or you're going to the match itself, right? And so you have this sense of community around it that like people live, eat, breathe football.
in England.
Yeah. And I think like going to the match like helps emphasize that. It really draws you in to feeling one with everyone else, even if you don't know them. You're just walking through the streets. You're walking. You're taking the train to the match, and the whole train's filled with fans. And you're walking the streets, and you're like moving as one with this huge crowd to the stadium, right? Then you're in the stadium. Everyone's moving, singing, breathing the same. Like that's what I think adds a lot to the meaning of football, because football isn't just a game. It's more than that.
Exactly. How long do you think it's going to take for it to build up in Canada to be at a European level?
I think we're definitely on the right path. With the CPL starting, we've seen that, and that's expanded over the last 2 3 years. Um, I've even seen like again more and more fans out to even smaller games, right? So if you look at League One, if you look at like grassroots football, there's more and more people getting involved there. Especially with the likes of when you look at the top and you see Alfonso Davies, right, and Joe David, like making a name for themselves on the bigger stage, and then in Europe and bringing more and more fans into it because people have more faith, people want to get involved. Um, so seeing the way it's growing so much in the last few years, especially within Canada, I really believe it's not too long. We host the World Cup in 2026.
Yep.
I think by then we could have a very very good foundation.
So you mentioned 2 points that I kind of want to dive into a little bit quickly. You mentioned Jonathan David, Canadian players, and Alfonso Davis. What do you think it would take for you to be able to get to that level? Do you think it's possible to get to that level? Being at the age and where you are right now, do you think it's possible to reach that level and be on that stage?
Yeah, I do personally believe that is achievable. Um, you've known me for quite some time, and you know that I'm a heavy believer in mindset is everything, and that what you can conceive, you can achieve, kind of thing. I've also always been pushing for like that first chance, that first opportunity, and now that I feel like I've been granted that opportunity, I'm taking it. I'm proving myself. So within the 7 games we've played in the season so far, I've started every single match
Nice.
and got 90 minutes. I've got 2 assists in 5 league games. So I want to keep on that path. And if anything, every game that I play just makes me more focused and more hungry for the next one. And I feel like with that ideology, and now that I'm on the stage where I can be watched and prove what needs to be proven, that I'll just get one thing after the next, be able to progress and to get onto that stage.
Nice. Quick question: are all your games recorded or are they televised?
Yeah, all our games are recorded.
Nice. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to ask was, what part of Europe are you in right now?
I'm in Wales, so that's part of the United Kingdom
Right, and the United Kingdom just separated
from the rest of Europe.
from the rest of Europe. And what's the short form of that?
Brexit.
Brexit. Okay, so this is something big that's going on in Europe. I mean, this took place this year, 2021, correct?
Yeah, I think the votes went through last year or
Last
2 years
year.
ago. But then they were in a transitional period. So what that meant was if you had an EU passport, you could still play here last year, even though the vote had gone through before then. But as of this year, they have cut off. They've gone through that transitional period, negotiated everything that had to happen for a seamless transition. And now Brexit is official. They have left the European Union.
European Union. That's what I was looking for. So now it's just the United Kingdom and Wales is attached to that?
Yeah, Wales is part of the United Kingdom.
Is there any other? So Wales is a completely separate country from the United Kingdom, correct?
No, Wales is separate from England,
Separate from England.
right? Just like Scotland and Ireland,
Okay.
but together they make up the United Kingdom.
Okay, got it. Is there any other? Would be Wales wouldn't be another country, it'd be a what?
No, it is another country.
Another country, okay.
So yeah, so Wales is its own country, um, and it borders like right on England, still on the main island. England is its own country, right? But then altogether, they are the United Kingdom.
Is there anything else attached to any other countries attached to the United Kingdom?
Yeah, there's Scotland,
Scotland.
and then you have like just across from Anglesey, which is an island of Wales. You
Yeah.
have actually Ireland and Dublin and stuff like that. So
Mm.
it's like a 4-hour ferry ride across, and you're in Dublin, Ireland. Yeah.
Interesting. So do they follow the same rules? Are they tied to the European Union or are they tied to the United Kingdom rules now?
So there's actually like gets confusing. I don't know
Yeah, that's what
100%
I'm
of
trying
it.
to figure
It's
out right
like parts of like Ireland um are completely like kind of like independent, but then parts I think it's like Northern Ireland is like independent or something like that. I'm not quite sure. So you
now.
don't quote me on it. Um, but then the other part of Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. Same with Wales and
Yeah.
same with England, right? Like they're run basically like all the same, have the same rules, etc. So all in all, I think like all of them just are separate from the EU
Mhm.
in general.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So the United Kingdom. So what are the rules now? Can a Canadian come over there and play in England? Like I know as a Canadian, we could still stay down there for 3 months. But playing wise, signing a professional contract, what do you need? A work visa, a work permit? What do you need now?
Yeah, so I literally had someone message me about this the other day. Once they seen that I was at Bangor and I was playing and everything, and I was Canadian, and they actually played just like 2 months or something like that at another local team in Northern Wales. Unfortunately, they couldn't stay. Reason being, they don't have a UK passport. So I'm
Right.
fortunate enough to have my English passport, right? So that's meant that I can settle in here, I can play here, and have no problem. Um, I just had another friend that was looking to come play here, and unfortunately, he has a European passport, but Brexit just occurred, so his European passport doesn't help him here and now, right? He can't sign in the UK because he'd need a UK passport, whereas before a European passport would have helped anywhere.
But
Um,
do you know if a Canadian can apply for a UK passport though?
the rules are that if you're above 18, then you have to have lived here like 5 years, spend most of your time here for 5 years, and then you can apply. If
Okay.
you're under 18, then you need to have a parent from the UK kind of thing or a grandparent.
Okay. Understood. I'm gonna look into this UK passport. That's interesting.
Yeah. And yeah, so now if you don't have a passport, then the way to do it is you can either like get a work visa, which would be like you for any job, like say you know how to cook. You could get a work visa for being a chef, and then you could sign like
Yep.
amateur contract, but at least you're playing kind of thing, and build up. And then once you're there, you've proven yourself. Then next year you can probably get the sports visa, sports work visa, right? Because it's
Or
completely
or
different. Or you have to just go and apply right away for the sports visa. But either way, the way it works is I think you need a guarantor. Like
okay.
you need someone to sponsor you basically. So if you're going to work at a restaurant, you need someone from the restaurant to say on your application for your visa, yes, he has this job lined up. This is what he will be doing. I will be supervising, blah, blah, blah. And it's the same for a club. So if you're applying for a work visa to be a professional footballer, then your club and the FA, the football association that you're under, so either Welsh FA, English FA, um, the application will be tied in with them and they have to have a part of it. So that's why you have to have your contract basically like guaranteed in advance. So in season makes it a lot more difficult because you're playing games like the focus is on the current moment. So if you have to go get your club involved to get a visa application that could take 10 weeks, and then you get there once your visa's cleared. And then you have to sign and you have to go through international clearance. Like that whole process in itself can take another 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So then you've wasted 15 weeks on just applying. And that's why clubs don't necessarily go with those if they don't have a passport. Like it makes it a lot more difficult. But say, as I said, you come on a work visa for like a restaurant, you play under an amateur contract for a year and you impress. And the next year the club might be like, yeah, cool. You know what? We know you now. We've seen what you can do for the last year, or maybe a scout's seen you for the last year and say, yeah, we want you to come to this club next year. And you say, oh, I was playing amateur. But because you've proven yourself or something, then in preseason, when you have the time, they can go through that process. It makes it a lot easier. Right.
Yeah, great points, bro. Yeah. Mhm. So your process was easier, simpler due to the fact of holding a European passport, but this goes back to your dad being from England.
Yeah. Yeah. I just basically, I got word of the trials. I came in and that was it really. I could sign whenever I wanted or whenever they offered. I could move in anywhere and I have no problem at all.
Nice, nice. Um, there was something I did want to mention here. It seems as if you planted seeds, which you did before, because you didn't hold your European passport before the first time that we went to England back in 2018, correct?
I had just gotten it.
You just
Like,
got it. So
yeah, because the rule, as I said, like so back then when Brexit wasn't a thing, I was thinking like I just need one passport as part of EU. So I went for my English passport because the English passport, it said if I get it before 18 years old, then I can get it through my dad. I'm my dad's son. But if I get it after 18, I'm no longer my dad's son. I'm my own person and have to live there for 5 years. So I was like, oh, it's crunch time. Like I need to get this. So I got it ASAP. And then when we went, I just turned 18 and I'd like just been approved for getting my passport. Like literally like 2 weeks before I turned 18.
Wait,
so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it did. It did. That's kind of the same thing that I did before I came to Florida, because it was like before you have to be under the age of 21 in order to apply for this visa. It's like one of the requirements for the green card, right? So on and so forth. But this is a visa topic. It's a really great point, and it's something that players don't come across until they get to that point of they're like, oh, I need a visa. Yeah. So it's usually around the age of like 17, 18 where you experienced it, where I've experienced it. So I think this is a very important and good topic to talk about because you've been able to, you're a Canadian citizen, you've been able to do it. But key points, guys, remember his father was from England. So another thing that I did want to mention or highlight here is that it takes time. The visa. So how long did it take for you to get your first visa? Because I know you were leading into, did you have to get a second visa as well?
I don't have to get any visas because of my passport.
Because of your passport. How long did it take?
Because of the passport, I'm considered a UK citizen.
Nice.
Of sorts. So therefore I can just move in. I already have my national insurance number, which is like the SIN number in Canada. I have my bank account set up here. I'm registered to vote here. So I've already got all these things set up. So for me coming in, there's like no transition really. It's just the biggest transition is like time difference and adjusting to all my family being back home.
True.
Right. But logistically, it's already been dealt with by getting my passport and by being here that first time. To get the passport, it took, I'd say like 2 months.
Nice.
To go through the whole process.
This is before COVID. Let's not forget this.
I was in high school applying for my passport, and I needed like a sponsor. That's someone that knew me for like 4 years minimum. Someone that was like either a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer.
Wait, say that one more time, please.
So when I was applying for my passport,
the
UK government wanted a sponsor to sign.
Sponsor?
Yeah, not a sponsor as in financial, but a sponsor as in to say like, yeah, we know Philippe. He's a good guy. I was his teacher. I was his doctor. I was his lawyer, whatever. Like, so it had to be someone of like that standing.
Got it. Yep.
And I was going around asking everyone, and no one wanted to put down their contact information. No one wanted to sign these papers for the UK government. And then so that took a little bit to find someone. Finally, I had a teacher in high school, Miss Daw, that was happy enough to sign and to help me out.
Shout out to
Um,
her.
and then yeah, so from there I was able to finish the application for my passport. It got approved, and then it got it a few weeks later.
Nice. That's pretty funny. Nobody wanted to give their contact info.
Yeah, everyone's like, no, I'm not letting the UK government contact me. But
Nobody wants to deal with them. That's pretty funny. That's interesting. So you got it. You got your UK passport at 18, and then after that, what was that process? I know we didn't finish the fun questions, but we're kind of in it. Like, so you got your passport at the age of 18, and then just like go back in time a little bit and tell us the process where how it led to you now, because you're 21. So
yeah,
the path of 18 to 19, 19 to 20, 20 to 21 of your soccer path or football path.
yeah. So right before I got my passport, it was urgent. It was a bit of a rush because we realized I was 17, almost 18, and I need to get it before 18. Um, and then what also added to that rush was suddenly I'm getting a call from Coach Bassam at A&B saying, "Hey, do you want to go to England?" Like, I'm sending Arian, I'm sending Arshia, I'm sending Kareem, I'm sending Saddam, and if you want to go, you can come too. So I was like, yeah, I'm in that. Like, I was super excited. We went and had a little meeting. Do you remember that meeting? Like, what was it? Copas, above Copas. And then just to like finalize that everything's happening. And I remember driving home, being on the phone with my parents saying, yeah, it's happening. Can I go? And just buzzing. And then we went there, 6 weeks there. And that's kind of like where I started to build the foundation to go back. After
Mm,
6 weeks, we went back to Canada. I finished off high school, and then had June and July in Canada. And then in end of July, beginning of August, I kind of said, okay, this is it. I'm just going to leave. I had no real contacts in the UK. I had made some friends from when I was there for 6 weeks. And once again, I was very fortunate to be able to stay with one of them for the year. And then when I got there, he brought me to his club that he was training at. And he said, hey, I got someone from Canada. Could you give them a look? So I went, trialed there, and I managed to sign for the U23s there.
nice.
So my first goal was just find a club and sign. Also to note for any young players looking to come to the UK if possible, whatever, the way it's run isn't the same as Canada.
Mm,
So when I got here, I was 18 years old. And in Canada, I would have been a U18 because it's by calendar year. However, when I got here, because I was born in January, I counted as the year before because they go school year, September to September. So if you're born after September of 2000, for example, right now I'm 21. So say I was born in 2000, but after September, I would be under 21s right now, kind of thing.
got it.
But
Yeah.
because I'm born in January of 2000, it's before September, it's after the September of 99, I kind of get grouped as a 99 as opposed to a 2000.
Got it.
When I came here, I was thinking, oh, I can go for an academy team. I can get in a pro academy. And then upon arriving, I realized, no, actually, I can't get into an academy. I have to get into men's football.
Mm,
Because although I thought I was under 18, to them, I was 19. So then I had to find, that kind of shook it up a bit. So I found the U23 side. So that was my first goal, check. Then it was, okay, get into the squad.
pause.
Yeah.
When you got into that U23 squad, what was that process like? Were you emailing clubs? Were you on LinkedIn? Were you talking to people on the phone? How did you go about it? Or did you just walk into a club and say, hey, can you get a tryout?
Yeah, so I was emailing clubs. Not many clubs respond to emails, even though it's preseason and they put on their website, yeah, contact us. But even then, like, they might not get back to you. I had been messaging people on LinkedIn and getting some success there. Sometimes no response once again. But then the club I ended up going with was through my friend Noe that I was staying with. That was his club as well. So he was able to have a personal kind of like conversation with the manager,
Mm.
and that eased the fact that I could go have a trial.
So, I just wanted to quickly mention. So it seemed what's most successful is having a relationship, someone that knows someone to make
Yeah.
the introduction.
Yeah. And I feel like having relationships with people is very important.
Mm,
However, it reaches a certain point where that's not necessarily enough, right? And I'll get to that like later, as you said, like the last 3 years since we gone. Um, yeah. So with the 23s, it's just about finding a club. I found a club, getting into the roster. I got into the roster. Next thing was chasing 90 minutes. I got 90 minutes. Then I was looking to go into the first team. Started training with the first team. Got called up into the first team. Um, and then I wanted like consistent minutes with the first team. So I went and signed for a new team, like closer to the end of the season. And the FA at that point was like, well, who's this guy? And turns out that the club I was at the whole season and made like 20, 30 appearances for hadn't done my international clearance. And
mm,
the FA found out that way. And then so I couldn't actually finish the season. I had to go home. And that kind of disrupted everything for me all of a sudden. So I went home early, didn't get to finish the season in England. Started playing some League One in Canada, got injured there. So then I couldn't go back to England for the start of the English season. And I just wasn't in like a good physical shape. My ankle was really injured. So I started going to this gym in North York, Toronto, called LPS, and they really helped get me into a better shape and make me injury free. Like injury prevention is their number one thing. And from there, I was able to go to trials in Spain and to trials at Tranmere Rovers in England in that like January, February period, right before COVID started. So I started to get back on my feet, started to get on these trials, and then was offered something actually in Slovenia, the
What
first
year?
division in
What
Slovenia.
what year is this now? 2019.
So this is 2019. I got sent home from England because of international clearance not being done by the club,
Yeah,
and then and then got injured and started just doing the rehab and working.
yeah.
Early 2020 was when I finally got offered some trials in Spain and in England. And so I went over in like January 2020, February 2020, and came back to Canada in March 2020 because COVID started to break out. At that point in March, I was offered something in Slovenia in the first division to play professionally there. Um, but their preseason started in June. And when you think like the way COVID escalated so quickly, I got back in Canada in March, and literally like 3, 4 days later, they announced they're closing the borders. It's like,
Crazy.
wow, I literally like just made it back. And so March, April, May, June arrives. I'm on the phone with these guys, and they're like, yeah, sorry, you can't come. So there's the reason that like they closed borders, but there's also the fact that because of COVID, seasons got postponed. So they weren't even done their season when they were supposed to be starting preseason. And the third fact that a lot of people might not have taken in was that options became limited because
Mhm.
of financial reasons. Like if fans aren't allowed to games, that's a huge revenue loss for a lot of these clubs. If you're talking the Premier League, yeah, they got millions, almost billions
Sponsorships.
from sponsorship, from television rights. Like people are still watching games, paying to watch games. Like you're selling so much merchandise. When you're talking about leagues like in Slovenia, in Wales, Scotland, that are still a very high level, but don't have the same global viewership,
Mhm.
then those fans attending those games, eating the food, drinking at the club, buying the kits at the club, like stuff like that, it affects the revenue hard. So then the clubs are forced to release certain players. So
Mm.
then now, not only was I trying to go for a spot that one, borders were closed, two, they hadn't even finished the season, started looking for new players, but now three added to it, they have to deal with players that have been released. Like they're releasing players, they're not even taking new players. So that was another effect COVID had on it, and restricting opportunities. So in the whole year for COVID, I was just at home once again in the gym, on the pitch by myself, or with you, with other friends, like
Yeah.
still putting our own work in, and still trying to grow as much as I can without a club. Until finally, once again, just waiting, being patient, staying ready for the next opportunity.
Mm.
I heard in May that there was a chance to come here, and so finally after working basically for 2 years without a club. And especially at that age when you're thinking, that's the age you need to be breaking into teams. You need to be breaking into first team. You need to be playing professionally kind of thing. Because the older you get, the harder it gets.
Mm.
And or it shouldn't be that way in a sense. It should be 100% on ability. But if you're younger and you're good, then obviously a coach will like that because they think, oh, he's going to learn more. We can coach him more. We can turn him into this kind of player for us. Right. So yeah, 2 years of a bit of struggle in terms of like injury and then COVID. And then finally coming here in May, trialing in June, and then being able to sign in July.
Nice. So how did it feel like signing your first pro contract? How did that all feel?
Honestly, it went by really quickly. And the guy that was taking care of it at the club was like, yeah, just soak it in. Because you have to go do like photos to be announced and stuff. And you have to sign the contract and you have to, like you get given, like you get moved into your new house, like everything happens so quickly. And he's like, yeah, enjoy this process. And the way the season works here too, where even in preseason, you're playing 2 games a week kind of thing. And then you're thrown into a season where you're playing 2 games a week. It's very quick, sometimes 3 games in 7 days. And so your focus is always on the next game. So it was kind of a whirlwind. I was extremely happy when it happened. But I was also, my mind was always focusing on what's next, like the next game, because as you sign in this environment, that's what you will notice is your focus is always on the next game because that's what matters, right? If you take the time to really just sit back and be like, yeah, I did it, and focus on that, then you won't be ready for the next game. Then you lose your spot, right? If you're not ready over the term of like the whole season, then you're not going to be in a club the next year.
What changed? Yeah, sorry.
Pardon?
No, sorry. I didn't know you were.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, to answer your question, like I was really happy. Honestly, it felt like a dream come true. And training every day, playing every day is a dream in itself. But yeah, you don't really have time to just rest on your laurels and sit back, right? You're always looking at the next thing.
Nice. I see the crest there. I like the color.
Yeah.
It looks nice. So what changed once you signed in your life?
People always say like, oh, the hard work starts now. You know what I mean? Like you've probably seen that quote like every time someone signs somewhere. But it's kind of facts. Like it's not just that, like you should have been working hard the whole time. And as you can probably tell from the story I just told over the last 3 years, I spent 2 years just working hard by myself. And that's why I was able to get here now. But it's a different kind of work. Like the manager, we have a conversation where he's like, yeah, you need to be in the gym. But if I see you doing certain things, that's no good. Because like it's intelligent. You have to focus on the fact that you're training every single day and they have their own plan and agenda for you and your fitness. And if you do too much extra, then you can be in trouble. So all my life it's been be the one who does the most, right? And hard work pays off. And now it's like, yeah, hard work pays off and you need to work harder, but it's more like a focused work as opposed to just doing everything and anything. Because if you're in the gym too much, you could get tired, you could get injured. And now are you injured because you're playing or are you injured because you're doing too much? Right? So the focus kind of shifts. And that's what changes when you're in this environment, right?
Yeah, very true. I can relate to that as well. It's pretty interesting. It's a mindset thing. It's a mindset switch where you go from exactly what you just said, working hard, which that's programmed into us by, coaches from whatever level. I know that coming here to Naples, I had that same mind switch of focusing on what needs to be done and not doing too much because it's very important. And I'm not too sure yet, but I think that it's pretty interesting in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
You're told one thing, and then once you get into the groove of things, you're actually in the professional environment. You're around the professional coaches, managers, trainers, so on and so forth. It's completely different. It's
Yeah.
not. It's what you expected a little bit, and then everything changes.
Yeah. And it is harder work,
Mhm.
funny enough. Like, okay, I'm not squatting 150 kilos like I was before in preseason, right? Um, but the demands of the coach, like the demands of the game, I'm coming home every single day with knocks, bruises, like just feeling like, ow, really? Like I didn't even notice I got stepped on there, kind of thing. And but that comes from the physicality, the pace, and the demands of the game. I'm a lot more sore than any season I've ever played before. So it is harder work. It's mentally, it's more fatiguing as well. Trying to keep on top of everything, trying to keep up with the demands of the game.
Mm,
But you might not be physically working as much in terms of in the gym, right? Or thinking, I know back home we'd train at A and B 4 to 5 times a week, have a game. So we're training every day except for one, right? Like on the weekend we'd play one day, Saturday or Sunday, and have the other day off, kind of thing.
mm.
And then we would go, I don't know about you, actually, we'd train together as well. So we'd go train extra and then we'd go in the gym. So we'd be doing like 2, 3 sessions a day,
Yeah.
right? But now doing just one session in the gym and one session with the club a day is even more fatiguing, right? So it's kind of like different work, but it is very, very tough. So the saying, the hard work starts now, does ring true. And I can't even explain it. I know you're saying like everything kind of changes. It's hard to pinpoint how.
I mean, like, look, the structure,
Yeah.
having a trainer, working on specific things. I mean, it's to a, there's Europe is at a certain level, and then there's levels upon levels there as well. But compared to back home, it's completely different.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a science. Like the club and the people that work there,
exactly.
they know what they're doing, and they put you through it, and you have blind faith because you know that they're there for a reason and that they're the best, kind of thing. Um, so you follow it, and it is very, very fatiguing in its way.
Hmm. So I wanted to ask. You said you guys played 2 or 3 games within a week, and then
Mhm.
to add on to that real quickly, how's the recovery system like?
So if we're playing, say we're playing Saturday, like to end one week, Saturday, Tuesday, and then Friday. Saturday we'll play, Sunday we'll come in for a recovery session. So it'll be some light running, some therapy with the physio, stretching, like very light stuff. Monday we'll train with the focus on Tuesday's match. So it becomes a lighter training, like positional awareness, things that you want to work on to prep for like press, when to sit back, when to go, depending on the style of play of the team you're going to play against. Then some set pieces, and call it a day. Then you play Tuesday. Wednesday, once again, same as Sunday. It's the day after the game. You're gonna come in, do some very light bits, therapy, whatever you need. Thursday, train again like Monday, where your focus is on Friday's match. So exact same structure. Play Friday, Saturday, come in for recovery. So when it's a week like that, and you're playing 3 games within 7 days, it's basically game, recovery, set up for the next game. Right? Sometimes you'll have a week where you might play just Tuesday and Saturday. So that allows you one extra day. So then Wednesday you'll come in, do your recovery. Thursday it'll be a full on training session, and then Friday once again pregame. Right? So it's hectic, and I leave it up, like it's not that I leave it up to them, but they, once again, I trust that they know exactly what they're doing for your recovery. They've structured it perfectly so that you always feel fit and ready for the game without feeling like you haven't done anything. Like you still worked. You came in, you've done everything that was necessary to prep you for the next match.
Nice. So again, down to the science, completely different experience that you're having there. It's a
Mhm.
professional environment. Um, Great points that you shared. Just to go back a little bit to finish off the fun questions that we had, the last two. Did you ever play soccer in the house when you were a kid?
Yes. All the time. Like We had the in the basement, like my sister and I we'd move the couches out the way kind of thing,
Mm,
and make a little space. And whether we used like a foam ball when I was really young, and then as I got older, we started instead of using like a foam like size 4, size 5 football, we started using like smaller balls, but we'd still play within the house. Yeah,
nice. You ever break anything, man?
yeah. I have this
Tons
one.
of shit.
I remember I was like, I must have been like 6 or something, and I broke like this vase that my parents had, and it was like this glass vase, and I felt so bad. Like I was coming down and I was like giving them like the change I had at like 6 years old. I was like $10 or something like that. I'm like, I'm sorry, I broke your stuff. Like, yeah,
That's
but
pretty
it's
funny.
part of growing up in a way too. Like when and part of the game, like when you love the game, it's winter in Canada. Like it's too cold to go outside. You're not gonna play, especially if you're 6 years old and you're only like what 3 foot, 4 foot, and you're facing 2 feet of snow. That's half your body height in snow. You're gonna play inside,
Hmm.
and sometimes things just happen.
True. It is true. Canada gets cold. Last question. Who's better, Messi or Ronaldo?
I like Ronaldo's work ethic, but I think Messi's just an all-around footballer. That guy is just different level, like assists, dribbles, creation of play, goals. Like I have to give it to Messi.
Mhm. All right, we're gonna dive a little bit more into you. So why do you play soccer, bro? Why?
Honestly, my parents had this approach when my sister and I were very young to kind of just throw us into a million different things and see what sticks. Right? They thought that if they put us in a bunch of different sports and a bunch of different arts and a bunch of different activities, we would find something that we love. And the first thing they put me into was football, and that stuck for me. My sister was picking flowers, so for her, it wasn't her thing. They could tell that right away, and then moved on to the next. But for me, like I just loved playing the sport. It was all I would do in elementary school for recess. Um, and obviously, having a dad that was from Liverpool, watching the games, that became like a family tradition between me and him. So the love and the passion of the sport is why I play it, and it was evident from a very young age that was important to me, and that's how I got involved and just stayed with it.
Nice. And what position are you playing right now?
So currently, I'm actually playing as a right back.
Oh, that's new.
Yeah. So I came in as a center mid, and the manager, he's played as a center mid himself professionally for Argentina, over 60 appearances with Argentina, playing with like Mascherano and Messi and Aguero and all them. And he's played for Barnsley in the Championship in England. That's very high level. And when I came in, he was saying that Kieran Trippier arrived at Barnsley when he was at Barnsley, and Kieran Trippier arrived as a midfielder. But then we all know now Kieran Trippier playing for England, playing for Atleti, is a fantastic right back. He can even play on the left. Um, and we were short a right back and a left back when I first arrived. And he put me in there for a preseason game. I'd done very well in those positions. So he said, okay, do you know what? I like you there. And I really believe that you can be a great fullback. And he keeps returning to Kieran Trippier and mentioning Kieran Trippier. So working together, him having his past experience at the level that he's played at, and seeing the players he's played with, and now me being in the position to work with him and see based off his prior knowledge, it's just kind of shifted, and I feel it's been a very smooth transition into playing as a right back, and I'm enjoying like every minute playing there and learning every day.
Has it been a fast adjustment for you? Have you been able to adapt quickly, or finding it challenging?
So the first few games I got thrown in there, like in preseason, I wasn't expecting it in a way. So I just had to play off instinct, play naturally, and that felt fine. And then it was more so when you start to learn the movement off the ball, when like as a fullback, when you're gonna come in, when you're gonna come out, when you're gonna overlap. You don't want to go too soon because then you're waiting for the ball and there's no surprise to it, right? So it's all about like timing and movement off the ball, and that bit I started to struggle with for a few matches in learning how to adapt and learning how to play a new position. Um, every day you learn, Whether it's your main position, you've been there for 20 years, or it's a new position, you're still always going to be learning. Um, so yeah, it was. I think it was quite seamless in a sense. Um, but yeah, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't the most difficult thing in the world to do either.
Right, and obviously for each position a player plays, they have to train for that position. So, are there any thing different that you guys do to train for your position when you guys are training?
Yeah, so back in preseason, we are doing like every Monday was running, and it was tailored. There'd be three different groups. It was tailored kind of like to the demands of the game. So myself, the other fullbacks, like the wingers kind of thing, the people that do a lot of running were in the group that had to do the most running. So that was already like starting to tailor you for the season. In season, an example I can think of off the top of my head was just this week. The defenders, we came and did our own session, while midfielders and attackers were doing their own session. And we were just focusing on position, how to move as a back four. When one person presses, where do you cover? Right. So we're focusing on the tactical and the mental side of how to play.
Mm,
So they do tailor it to the demands of the game, whether it be physical, whether it be mental, tactical, technical as well. The drills we're doing to really help sharpen you in your position and the skills you need for that.
got it. What are three tips that you can share for the viewers that play in that right back position?
Always make sure you're fit, because the best right backs in the game these days, they're up the pitch and they're creating play, and then they're back defending. Right, like it's your job to be mobile, be agile, and be able to do everything. Right, cross it and then stop the crosses from occurring as well. So yeah, one thing that I think is key is fitness. The other thing I'd say is key is varying your movement and understanding that movement, those patterns of play. Can you go inside? Can you overlap outside? Right? Can you find the striker? Can you find the winger? Can you find the midfielder when you have the ball? So it's about that positional awareness. And then the third thing that I think is underrated in a way, because when we do watch the highest levels of the game, don't necessarily see it. And someone said it the other day because of the Brentford match against Arsenal. Brentford was using long throws to good effect. And someone was saying you don't necessarily see this in the Premier League or in other top divisions, because they think they're, to quote the commentator on the TV, you don't see it because you think that the league is above that, right? But it is a very useful skill to have a long throw. So if you're a right back or a left back, can you learn to have a long throw, especially in climbing that football ladder? If you're not already a 19-year-old star at Manchester United's academy, then odds are you will be climbing the football ladder and you will be starting professionally elsewhere and need to work up. And at these levels, having a long throw can be very, very useful, right? Even in the Premier League, we've seen Brentford use it against Arsenal and beat them 2-0, right? So that's something that's probably not seen, but if you can work on it, can be very, very helpful for you, for your team, and for your career.
Nice. Um, do you have two more tips that you could share with us?
Um, yeah, I'd say your body shape when defending. Obviously, the goal is to score. So as a defender, you want to be blocking that off. You want to be pushing them wide if possible, because danger is more so in the middle.
Yeah.
However, you don't want to have your body shape too much pushing them wide, right? You want to remember that you're blocking the goal. So always have your back directly to the goal. If he cuts in, then you're able to be there. Because if you're facing too much wide, then they can cut in and you're not going to turn it in time, right? And the other thing, crossing. As I said, the modern fullback is up and down the pitch.
Thanks.
So not just body shape and defending, being able to get those tackles in, but then on the other side of the pitch, how good your delivery.
Yeah. So climbing that ladder, you mentioned it. What is your plan? How do you plan to climb that ladder? And I'm pretty sure, well, let me just ask you, have you talked to the coach and asked, how can I climb this ladder? Or do you already know in your mind how you are going to climb the ladder?
I've had conversations with him about moving on, but not in the sense that like, oh, what am I gonna do? What are you gonna help or anything like that? Like we just say like we talk about the transfer market, for example, or we
Mm.
talk about the games, and he goes, yeah, the footage that you're getting will help you move on. Or even yesterday when we are talking about training, he says, going back to the topic of not doing too much in the gym, for example, he says, yeah, because if you stay fit, you don't do too much that ends up getting you injured, then you can have a great season. You have a great season, you're not here next year. So there's always like those little comments. Um, but more so, I'm not really concerned about what my next step is right now. I'm really just focused on these games that are coming up. Right, the next game, the next game. How can I perform? How can I learn from the last game and get better? Because I know that if I do my bit now in the present moment, the rest will take care of itself afterwards. And there's like two sayings that my dad always said. That one is things come first to the man with infinite patience. If you have infinite patience, you're not going to force things, and the universe will just work things out for you. And then the other thing through life coaching that I've heard through my parents, my dad and my mom, is um, know the what, trust the how. So you have to know what the goal is. The goal is to go up that ladder. So I know what the what is, but now I just have to trust the how and leave it up to whatever circumstance happens. Right. In February, I didn't know I was going to be here in May. I just had to trust and I just had to keep doing my work. So now it's the same thing. Nothing's changed in that regard. It's whatever happens next season will happen next season. And I know that if I focus solely on this season, it gives me a better chance of doing something better next season. If I'm worried about what that next step is, it's going to distract me. It's going to take me away from what I'm actually doing now.
Very good points. Very, very good points. When did your season start? What month? And when does it end?
So this year with COVID, that's just happened. We started a bit earlier. So we've started in like, first game was July 17th. And we're going to finish our last league game is April 23rd.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How many months is that?
July, August, September, October, November, December, January, March, April, 10 months.
Wow. How many games is that?
So we have 30 games in the league. And we then have two different cups. We have the Nathaniel Cup and we have the Welsh FA Cup. And on top of that, if you win the Nathaniel Cup, then it broadens. So the Nathaniel Cup we're playing right now is just in Wales. But if you win, like in Wales, then you start playing teams from Ireland, from Scotland as well. So next thing you could be playing against Celtic kind of thing. So it's quite a big cup, and the games can add up. Yeah.
So this is nice. So you have a 10-month season, 30 games plus 2 cups. That's a lot of games being played, a lot of training, and a lot of footage.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a league that you play in, well, first of all, what's the name of the league?
I don't know how to pronounce it in Welsh, but it's spelled Cymru, so it's like Simru or it's whatever it is, North.
Okay, got it.
That's the league we're playing in.
What was I gonna say? Bro, 10 months, 30 games, 2 cups. That's a lot. That is a lot.
You could be hitting like 50, 55 games in the season.
So okay.
Well, in the cups, like, yeah, it adds up.
That's a lot. Damn.
Yeah. That's why I was looking at League One in Canada because I have some friends playing in League One right now. And I was like, wow, they have like a 4-month season and they have 20 games. And I was like, compared to what we're doing out here, it's like hitting me how much we do out here.
It's a lot.
Right.
I think the most interesting thing I've heard from, people that have played pro, that have played in Europe, right? Like what I'm even hearing from you, you just haven't said it yet, but you'll agree with what I'm about to say, is that football is a job.
Yeah.
It's a job. It's not a sport. It's a well, at least in this country, in the country that you're in Wales. You're in Europe. It's a
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, and that goes exactly to what I was saying about the manager saying, like, you can't do too much by yourself, right? Because this is your job. If you do too much and you get injured outside of football, I can terminate your contract.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Oh wow! Did he say
you're
this?
not.
He said this to you?
Yeah, well, he wasn't saying it to me. We were speaking like me and a couple other players, and one player's currently injured, and yet he's been seen in the gym. So they're like, "Well, you're injured, but you're in the gym." So he's like, "Look, if this continues, and it messes with your rehab, and you get injured again, I'm gonna put it up to that. And if it's because you're doing too much, then I can terminate your contract, kind of thing." So it is your job. Like everything outside of what happens at the club is still focused and geared towards what you're doing with your team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's all about your job. Um, Great points again, Phil. Great points. Okay, let's stick to the script that I have because I keep going off track because of the fact that there's so many interesting points to just dive into, and
Mhm.
we're diving into it. So, what sacrifices have you and your family made for football?
My family and I made plenty of sacrifices. Like my dad was always giving up his time to drive me to and from training every day. And I mean, like, I played a lot of time locally, like only like 15 minutes away from my house, but still, you'd still have to go 15 minutes back, and then spend like the hour and a half, 2 hours at training. But then when I started going to A and B, it's like an hour drive, and he was still always there, taking me up there and everything. Um, my mom was always supporting financially, like the fees that we have to pay for clubs for going for trips, like when we went to Washington, um, and stuff like that, going to England. And they've always just been also supportive mentally and emotionally because they have a lot of training in life coaching. And so these were like time, effort, resources that they were giving to me and sacrifices that they were making. And obviously, it goes without saying, being a footballer, um, every footballer will know this, that you give up going out, you give up staying up binging shows, like you give up eating certain things that like everyone else might go out and go, oh, let's go get dessert, but you're like, I can't really eat that, sorry, right? um Big sacrifices is moving away from your family, from your friends, right? And just adapting to a new lifestyle and a new culture.
Girlfriend,
But yeah,
man.
the first year I went away, um I was gone once again. Like, okay, I went back periodically that year, um but majority of that year I was away once again from August till April. Well, August till March. Um, and then the next 2 years, there was always that threat of, am I going to leave? Am I not? Am I going to leave? Am I not? So it wasn't stable. Like, it makes it very difficult to imagine building a relationship. And then now, once again, I'm gone. And this time, it's not like when I was younger and I was at a U23 non-league football club that has breaks. Like, no, I'm here the whole season. That's it. Next time I get to go back is end the season. So May, right? So that's 10 whole months. So there are sacrifices like that are pretty big. Um, but personally, it just feels like it's all part of it. It's all worth it, right? So I know some players, it's very difficult, and it was a lot harder when I was younger. But over the last 2-3 years, I think everything that's happened has prepared me for this, and it's had to happen a certain way so I could be ready at this time.
True.
Yeah,
Did you have an agent when you signed pro?
I did not.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, I got notified of the opportunity for a trial here from an old coach of mine, who had coached in Canada for many years, but he's originally actually from Wales. So when COVID happened, he had a visa, a work visa to work in Canada. But as I said, the visas are specific to what you can do. If you want to have a visa to play football, you need a sports visa.
Sports, not a work visa.
No, it falls under work visa, but under work visas, there's a bunch of different categories that you can go into.
Wait, but are you
So if
saying,
you-
sorry, but if you're saying if you get if a Canadian comes to the UK and gets a work visa, they wouldn't be able to play, and if they get a contract, they wouldn't be able to sign pro?
so if you get a work visa that is a work sports visa, then yes.
So,
If you get like a work visa that is for hospitality and you work in a hotel or in a restaurant, then your job isn't football, essentially, according to the government and according to your visa. So you can sign and play professionally, but you'd sign on an amateur contract where it's not your profession, right?
as an amateur, you wouldn't be getting paid.
No.
Okay, understood. So, okay, so my question is, you've answered it to a certain extent. The thing that I want to fully understand is that uh, you get a work visa, but let's just say you don't go to the hotel. You with that work visa, you go to a club, and that a club that wants to give you a contract, and you show them this work visa, they wouldn't be able to take you. And it specifically has to be a sports work visa.
Yeah. So just like before in the call when I was saying that the visas are specific to what you're going into because
Wow.
you also need that guarantor or that what is it called? That sponsor, right? So if you're going to sign for a club professionally and you don't have a passport, so you need a visa, then someone at the club has to say on your application for the visa, he is signing at this club. This will be his source of income. He will earn X amount, right? And then someone at the FA, the Football Association, has to agree and say, yes, they will be registered in our system. They will be playing with this team for our leagues, for example, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you can't just get a work visa for a restaurant and then come here and not work in a restaurant, right? Because someone at the restaurant, for you to get that visa, will have had to say he will be working here, he will be earning this much money, right? Because if you think of it as a government as well, when you have random people coming into your country, you don't want them just coming in and then living off benefits and taking your government's money and this and that. So on top of having someone at your employment vouch for you that you will be employed there, you actually have to have a certain amount of money in the bank account and prove it.
True.
When you come to the UK, I think it's like £1,200 or something like that. They have to see that you have that in your account, because then they're like, okay, while you get settled in, because, for example, say you get paid monthly at this restaurant you're going to work at, right? The first month, you still have to pay rent, you still have to pay food. So the government wants to see that you have enough money to support yourself before you get your first paycheck, right? So that's why the whole visa thing, like, it can be difficult. And that's why you need to, like, be specific. So for the instance of this coach in Canada, his visa was for coaching, like football. It had to be football related. And when COVID happened, everything in Canada got shut down. There was no football to be played. He couldn't coach. So suddenly his income's gone and he's not allowed to go do anything else because of the regulations on his visa. So then he ended up coming back to Wales and then was coaching around here, building his contacts up again that he used to have, and then found out that there's an opportunity to come here and trial. And so I came here through him and thanks to him as opposed to an agent.
So the reason why I said interesting is because, I thought, growing up playing football, a player always needed an agent before signing pro.
Mm-hmm.
Not true.
No.
Which I come to find out, after interviewing so many other pro players, talking to other, players from different countries, so on and so forth, talking to you, Phil, another great story, sharing that you didn't have an agent through the process, you did it by yourself, and how you did it. So it just goes to show that you don't really need an agent.
Mm-hmm.
There does come a certain point in your career once you go higher and higher that you will need an agent.
Yeah. For negotiating, especially like when you have your reputation and clubs want you, kind of thing. Okay, what's the best for you? What's the best for the club? What's the best that someone can negotiate for you? And if you're doing it yourself, it's very difficult. But if you have a third party do it for you, right? They understand the ins and outs. I mean, it's their job. Your job is to play football. Their job is to help footballers play football and be paid for it.
Yeah,
right.
Middleman. So
Yeah.
would you agree that when you were growing up, you thought you had to have an agent before signing pro?
yeah, I was like, when I was younger, I was like, I need an agent. Why can't I have an agent? I need to find an agent, kind of thing. And then my dad and everyone was like, well, relax, because if you find an agent now, you're either going to pay them up front, which they could just walk off of your money and not help you at all, or whenever you do sign somewhere, they're going to take a percentage, or they're going to take what they can. And while you're young and while you're not earning that much, like, it's different when you're earning 250,000 a week and they want 2%. Okay, like, you're making more money than you can spend in a way. But when you're on, like, say 200 a week, right, 400 a week, and at that level, because you're not earning as much, the percentage that they want is bigger, because it needs to still make sense for them. So next thing, you're losing 10% of a minimal amount of money in terms of everything that you need to pay for. Then yeah, you don't really need an agent at that point, right? If you can do it yourself, then you're better off for it. It's when you want to get to those, like, those top levels, then it's really handy to have someone who knows what they're doing to help you out.
Got it. Did you have at least a lawyer to go through your contract, or did you just go through the contract yourself?
When I got given the contract, my dad asked me to send it to him, so I sent it to him. He read over it, and we just kind of looked at him and like, yeah, okay,
Nice.
good enough. Yeah, I've had many close conversations with the manager since arriving, since getting to know him. So I know he has my best intentions in mind, and I trust everyone at the club. And I've read it over and looked good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. How long are you signed over there for?
I'm just going 1 year at a time. So
Okay.
I'm looking, as I said, like, we don't know what's going to happen this year. We don't know what's going to happen next year.
True.
The manager's goal is to move on and manage Barnsley. So he doesn't know what's going to happen with himself either, right? So everyone at the club is in that frame of mind to be able to advance their careers.
Mm.
So no one really wants to sign like a 5-year deal or anything like that, and be forced to then make it more difficult for a club. Because once again, if you think about it in monetary terms, if you sign 4 years somewhere and another club likes you, now they have to pay a fee to buy you out of that contract.
Mm.
Whereas if you're just on 1 year, at the end of the year, you decide something else afterwards, makes it easy to go to another club at a higher level potentially, because they don't have to pay a fee to release you.
So you're saying you become more attractive as a player,
Yeah,
possibly.
possibly. You don't want to run the risk where no team wants you at the end, and then you don't have a club,
Mm.
right? But if you do everything you need to do, and you build the relationships, and you build the the footage, the CV, everything you need necessary, then there's no reason why another club won't take you at the end of that contract period.
Yeah. Wow. Um, Tons of great points in this. Is there anything that you would like to share?
I just say that when you arrive somewhere, if you're on trials or anything, really take the time to actually just not just worry about the fact that, yeah, you're on trial and you want a contract, obviously, but feel the environment of the club and feel the energy at the club. I was on trials at certain places, and you can really feel the difference between, for example, if I was 2 years ago before COVID, or a year and a half ago, whenever it was,
Don't
I
mention
got called at 2 different clubs in England. I'm not going to say which is which, but like, there's this one club that was higher up in football. So obviously, like, from an outside perspective, you'd want to play there. But then upon arriving there, they had a really bad attitude. Like, you're supposed to be in at 8 o'clock. Players are showing in 7:30, 9 o'clock. Like, you're supposed to have breakfast with the team, and they get supplements given to them, and yet they'd show up and not take the supplements. You'd speak to the academy boys, and you'd be like, "Oh, you see the supplements on the wall that the first team's taking? Are you taking these?" And they go, "No, it's for the first team." You go, "Okay, but do you want to play for the first team? Because if you want to play at that level, you need to do what that level's doing, right?" So the fact that they've displayed it for you and you can go get those supplements, but you're not taking them, like, the whole energy around the club just seemed like they were satisfied with where they were. And then after that, I went to another club that was a bit lower down. And although they were lower down, they had a big mindset and said, yeah, we're getting promotion this year, we're getting promotion the year after that, we're getting promotion the year after that, and we're going to build our way up. They had owners that were coming in back in the club financially to say, yeah, even though we're at this level and players at this level are only earning this much money, we're going to make sure our players are full time. We're going to make sure our players are earning enough money to focus solely on this so that we can bring the whole club up, right? So the point in the example of these two teams is you need to find a team that feels right, that has a good energy, that has the right mindset. And I feel like when I moved here, like one of the first things I noticed was how welcoming they were, and like the feeling of family within the club, and the fact that everyone wanted to work for each other, right? It wasn't just about, oh, I'm here to get paid and I'm here to advance my career and I don't care. Like, no, everyone there is working for each other. Everyone there is supporting each other. And I feel like that's massive, right? So take the time if you're listening to this and you're going to trial soon or something like that, or you're imagining trials in the future, just remember to take the time and like really feel out whether the club is right for you at the same time, not just thinking that you have to sign anywhere.
Nice.
I feel like that's something that, like, when I say everything happened for a reason, COVID happened, I didn't get into those clubs, I didn't get to stay. That happened for a reason, so I could learn these lessons and end up being where I am now and understand that, yeah, this club feels like the perfect fit.
What would you say, reaching back to, 16-year-old Phil? What would you say?
Patience. Just I was so caught up in thinking that I had to have everything happen now. Like that I felt like I was kind of forcing things. Right? I wasn't just having the same mindset of trust that if you do the work that you need to do, things will happen when they happen. And it'll all be in your best intention.
True. And I mean, tell me what you think. I feel that it's important that, coming from Canada is a completely different path than being born in the UK and going down that path and playing for these huge clubs at such a young age and being able to see the pros train at their facilities, not pay for anything, because, Canada, US, pay to play system, UK,
Yeah.
pay to play. You're there, they're helping develop you. I mean, two completely different paths. So, I mean, you grew up in Canada, you know how that path is. Um, Mentally, do you think it was seeing players your age in Europe signing at 16, like Rooney for Man U, signing at 17, 18, seeing these players sign at such a young age? Do you think it affected you mentally, still being in Canada and be like, that's exactly what I want to be doing it. But because you're seeing it, you're kind of feeling like this needs to happen right now, but you weren't on the same path as them. Any Canadian is not on the same path.
Yeah. Like I was seeing Trent Alexander-Arnold for Liverpool, right? Marcus Rashford at United, like Jadon Sancho. I'm watching these players play at the highest level, and I'm in class, like sat at a desk, getting a migraine because I'm like,
Say that again. Say that again.
I'm just sat there like, I really want to be there, and yet I'm forced to be here, kind of thing. So that's why. So I felt I was also kind of like against it all because it's like, why do I have to do this when I want to do that, right? So it kind of made my mindset a bit more negative. It was also the fact that, yeah, I'm watching these young players play, and I'm like, I haven't had the opportunity, and I'm their age. Why am I not there, kind of thing, which made me rush to want to be there. However, having experienced right after high school coming here and having experienced the mindset of players here, I can actually say as well that although there's opportunities to advance your career much more if you're like raised in the UK in a way, as opposed to Canada, because there's just so many teams, so many resources, everyone's trying to like help someone else get to that next level, be that next star. It does affect their mindset though, at the same time, right? Because now you have players that if they're not being paid at a club, they won't be there. They'll say, if you're not paying me, I'm not playing. I'm gone. And they'll leave. Right? Or you have players that they might not get minutes every single game. So then they go, screw this, there's another team down the road, I'm gonna go there. Right? But then they're jumping from team to team to team and they're not getting minutes and they're not advancing their career. because they just think that because football is so big and so like accessible here, it's kind of like a given right to be a footballer. Whereas in Canada, because you do work for it, because you pay for it, you do have that mindset where it's like, okay, yeah, I have to work, I have to be here, right? So if you go to your first club anywhere, like when I was in London, I wasn't paid 3 years ago, right? I was at 23s in a non-league club, but I only cared about playing, right? Whereas other players might be like, I'm not playing, I'm not paid, I'm not here, I'm gone. But then they're just hurting themselves in a way, right? As opposed to understanding that if you can stay consistent, if you can get minutes, you can build your CV, that will help you in the long run. And it just reminds me of this Napoleon Hill quote. And I know you like Napoleon Hill, and I know you like reading. And yeah, exactly. And this guy said, the man that does more than he is paid to do will soon be paid for more than what he does. Right? So in England, you have all these resources. So if you don't have the correct mindset, you won't advance. If you do have the correct mindset, you will advance. Right? But it's the same in Canada. Like Canada's less resources, but you have to have that mindset to keep going.
For football, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, great points. Great points.
Yeah. So I do think that, like, being raised in Canada has helped. It's made it difficult in that first stage, that 16-year-old, when I'm watching those big stars, and I'm like, yo, why am I not there at 16? Because there wasn't the same opportunities. But in the long run, I'm like, the last 2 years, when everyone's been stuck at home with COVID and everything, if I didn't have the mindset that I had because of how I was raised and the environment I was raised in, a lot of people could just walk away. But I stayed focused, right?
Yeah. So being in Canada, growing up in Canada, I mean, I've said this one time, being in the car with my mom, like, yo, I wish I was born in the UK.
Yeah.
It's football or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you mentioned, I went crazy when you mentioned the point of, you know, these guys are 16, 17, 18 on the pitch, on the TV, on the biggest stage ever playing pro, and you're there in class, like, it's kind of like you're obligated. You said this. I felt the same way.
Yeah.
You know, and do you know how many other players or athletes feel this way?
Yeah. It's even the school system, though, right? Like in Canada, you have 9, 10, 11, 12. That's high school. And you have to be there. In England, the way it works is you have grade 9 and 10, and then you can choose whether you want to go academic or apprenticeship, right? And if you go apprenticeship, football's an apprenticeship. So then grade 11 and grade 12, you're at a team, and you're playing every day with that team. And they give you education, but the education is related to football, right? So even their education system, that's why at 16 years old, right, you can be playing for a club at the highest level, because even their system for schooling supports it, right? Whereas in Canada, you're still gonna have to go to school. You're still gonna have to make that that takes the most of your time. That takes the most of your resources, your energy. You can only train at night once you're done your homework. Home, and then you still have to do more homework, and it's late, and then you're sacrificing your sleep, which will help your career, but you have to advance your schoolwork because that's the priority at that time.
True. So what we're coming to the point of is this, you know, the country that you're in, culture of it, and the system, very, very important. And we don't come to realize until we're 20 or 21 of the realization of what we grew up in.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, no, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say it's fine. Fuck that shit. But we at least come to the realization of what we experienced, and then we're able to manifest what we want now, like as you've done, as I've done. So yeah, and I think what I want to mention here too is, you know, going back to myself being 16, what I would say to my 16-year-old self or 18-year-old self is, because there's a lot of young people that are in this mindset of, I kind of want to say delusion, because there's no one really talking about this stuff. You know, there's no one really sharing this information that it's not about how good you are. Of course, performance is key. That's all they care about. Yes.
Mhm.
But again, there's 200 to 300 million people that play soccer for fun, but there's only 200 to 300,000 players that play pro.
Mhm.
Like, understand the numbers. Like, there's only usually 25 players in a club. Understand the numbers. So, where you grow up is very important and plays a big role in your development as a player and can affect your career
Mhm.
immensely, right? Like, this is like, you've seen the opportunity in England 2018,
Yeah.
6-week pilot trip, bro. We're down there. Last game, like, bro, in my mind, I should have came to the Arsenal game, when you guys went to Wembley. I should have came to that.
Mm.
But the last game that we played, because the game before that, I missed that goal. I'm not too sure if you remember, or that pass of Shear gave me threaded it through, and I missed it. I'm like, yo, the next chance I get, I'm scoring, bro. And the last game where we had that showcase, in my mind was all about scoring.
Mhm.
So that's how I scored that goal, right? It was just in my mind. I'm like, any chance I get, and it was on, what's his name, Max? Was it Max? Keeper, the black guy.
Yeah.
That's in the Gentleman song, and he was a
Oh, no, no, Morgan.
Morgan, and bro, he
Yeah.
was kicking it. Solid goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Bro, I just got the ball, pacers, just curved it right into it was the right corner on the floor, finesse. Bro, so when the Reading FC stuff happened, when we had that meeting, and Coach Sam's like, oh, I got picked up by Reading FC. It's like, that's what gave me the ultimate confidence. That's the only thing that really pushed. Well, obviously, it was just actually the engine, the starting point,
Mhm.
right? And then, bro, from there, it was like anything's possible, but there's
Yeah.
more to it. Work permits, visas, passports, so on and so forth. Anyways, going to France, being down there for 3 months. Again, it's the same thing, visa, but there was actually a loophole in France.
Mm.
Like a solid loophole where if when I came back, got my visa and went back for preseason, I feel like I could be a lot further
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
where I am now. I could be a lot further if I just did what I needed to do in that time.
Mhm.
Boom. Then COVID happened. You already know that. Everyone knows COVID. And then now I came down to Naples. I had an experience of, it sounds similar to what you're talking about. Um, what's it called with
If you're not patient in Canada, then a lot of players will stop playing before they get to
facts.
the level that they can actually achieve, because the opportunities might be limited compared to England, like, or compared to anywhere in Europe. Just think, if you look at the top ranked 33 professional leagues in the world, all four of England's top leagues are in the top 33, right? And that says something about how much opportunity there is in the UK, right? Um, Compared to Canada. However, there's also the positives that come from that, where it's like, if you do persevere through the difficulties of not having opportunities, through the difficulties of seeing people at 16, 17, 18 years old playing at the highest level and you're in class, like, if you get through that stage and you stick with it, then when you do hit the higher levels, you do have a better mindset compared to those that have had everything given, because they go, yeah, it's my right to be here.
Mm,
And then they get lazy, whereas you've worked hard for this, so you're going to continue to work. You're going to continue to stay focused. So it's like, it's everything in life. There's always balance. There's good and there's bad. So yes, there might be a lack of opportunities, which might damage players a bit mentally because they don't see themselves progressing at a young age in Canada. However, that can also make you tougher, more focused, more driven. And look at Jamie Vardy. Like, that's a big example. He didn't sign his first professional contract till he was 25, 26.
mm.
Now he's 34 years old, scoring in front of Wolves fans, running over to the corner flag and howling at them. Like,
But
he's
you
a
hear
beast.
I mean, that's great. You hear don't hear that many stories of a James Vardy though. That's what makes it James Vardy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hear a lot of those. Those are very rare.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying that I did want to end it off with asking. I don't know if you read it, but did you get a chance to read the book?
Yes, sir, I have.
Did you like skim through it? Did you read some chapters? Like, just give me some feedback on it.
Yeah, so when we met up, you gave me a copy of the book. I think on our last interview, and I remember at that time I was still injured, and I was going every day to the gym, and I was taking the train, and I was going to trainings up in like Mississauga and Vaughan for indoor training. And I had my book with me, and I was on the bus, and I was on the train. I was actually reading on the train every night, and I just remember like seeing all the points, like the way it was formatted was just so accessible for knowledge, right? Like sometimes you think if you go Google something, you have to look through a million different pages, and you might not even find your answer, and it's buried somewhere in like pages and pages and pages of information. What I loved about the book was that you wanted to know something, told you where. And then once you get to that page, it's not like you have to go through 100 pages more in that chapter to find the one piece of information you need. Everything was precise, to the point, explained for every reader to understand, and just facilitated the transfer of knowledge to be able to then learn, integrate, and apply it right away.
Yeah, appreciate that, bro. And it's like, I mean, again, I need to make a video of the story of how the book how the book came about. And the book was written when I was 18. I wrote this when I was 18, so it's a pretty cool story. And I've learned so much along the journey where I am now from 2018 to 2021. I've done, conversations back in the days and small little interviews here and there, but now we're doing interviews on a bigger scale with more players, more professional players like yourself, in Wales, in Europe, in the United States, in the MLS, the USL. So much knowledge and information, speaking to coaches, scouts, agents, owners, right? There's so much information inside right now that needs to be put into a new book probably, because this was a starting point right here. But the next one that comes out, I'm gonna be at a different level playing wise as well. But the next one that comes out is gonna be straight to the point, no fluff, exactly what you need to know. I wouldn't even say that's fluff. That's like just 18-year-old mindset, but exactly what you need to know, straight to the point. And there's actually a couple of things that I'm working on. And I did want to mention about the visas. You seem very knowledgeable about the visas. Well, you are very knowledgeable about the visas. And it has to do a little bit about that, but I'll talk to you about that offline. But anyways, before we go, where can the viewers find you, Phil?
People can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. So Twitter and Instagram, it's just my name with 2 extra E's on the end and underscore, PHILIPPEE_. And on LinkedIn, Felipe Edmonds.
Nice. And before we go, I feel like this whole time we didn't mention the club that you're playing at right now, but it's Bangor City Football Club.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks again, Phil.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yo, so Phil, we were just talking about your, a teammate being an enemy. Can you just say what you said about the Rondo again?
Yeah. So when you're in this environment, like you quickly learn that off the pitch you can be friends, but when you're there's no friends in football, right? You're there for your spot. Like there's mad tackles flying in training because you have to train what you play and you have to be serious. So I have this right back that's my competition in the team. On game day, we're mates, but throughout the week in training, like that he's coming for your spot or you're coming for his spot, and you have to fight to have that spot ahead of each other. So even not tackles, but even in the rondo, like we do a rondo before every session, and we'll stand on opposite sides or something like that, or wherever we are in the rondo. I know that he's going to look to give me a hard pass, right? Because if I lose the ball, it looks bad on me. So I deal with it well. But then if I can get the ball and return it back to him and see if he loses it, right, then it reflects negatively on his decision making, on his technical ability. So even in a rondo, like you're kind of like focusing on the person that's trying to take your spot and playing these games with them, right? Because you know that you just have to be better in every way at every moment.
True.
So yeah, they're your mate, they're your friend after the game. On game day, you're working together. But in the week, they're also kind of like your opposition, your enemy, like the one person that you have to better to not just like you have to better yourself, but you have to better them as well to keep your spot ahead of them.
Hmm. Yeah, and I want to mention about the fans, about having that experience for players that haven't experienced that yet, that atmosphere of, you know, playing professionally and fans talking shit to you, players talking shit to you. And you know what? How is that experience?
Honestly, it can make or break you, like depending on your mindset. For me personally, when I hear like when I'm aware that someone's talking shit, like whether it's the fans, whether it's a player, it switches me on more. Like it just makes me like, okay, yeah, bet like you're standing there making commentary. I'm here playing 90 minutes at a professional level, so right, and you just go and prove to them that you're there for a reason. And the more you prove it, you'll find that the better you do, the more they'll talk trash. And it's actually fun in a way. Like, but if you let it get to your head before anything happens, then you'll have a crap game. You'll get subbed off. Like, then you're just frustrated. But you just have to take it as like it's part of the game, right? Everyone's trying to have an advantage. Everyone's trying to gain an edge. So if they can talk trash and get in someone's head, they've got an advantage, even if they're a fan, right? And not a player. They've gained an advantage for their team. So you just have to look at it as that. And if you just stay quiet, you can talk back, yeah. Or my personal favorite thing is to just stay quiet, have a laugh, right? If you laugh at it, it actually riles them up. They get so mad, right? But it's part of the game, it's part of the experience. And if you can enjoy it, then you can get ahead with it.
True. What about players on the field that you're playing against? Do they ever talk shit to you?
Yeah, all the time. Once again, they're trying to get into your head. So the first professional match I had, like I was so focused. I'm like, wow, this is such a momentous moment. Like I've been waiting all my life since like 5, 6 years old to make this appearance. I was so focused like on it. Like I wasn't focusing on the game itself in a way. So first 10 minutes, like ball comes over the top and I slice it. Like I don't make the contact I want. Um, so like I was just not as clean as I should have been. And then instantly their left winger, oh, this guy's crap. Yo, give me the ball over here. This guy's dead. Let me finish him. Like, and this guy's like bigging it up like he's Cristiano Ronaldo. And like I'm freaking God knows who, like never heard of, never seen. I'm like a 4-year-old on the pitch, like learning about it for the first time. And for a lot of players, that could like throw them off. They could be like, oh crap, he's right. Then for me, I was just like, who does this guy think he is? And then for the rest of the game, I had him on locks. And then like 70th minute, 80th minute comes, ball comes to him, goes under his foot. I hadn't said anything back to him the whole game. At that point, I literally just laughed. I laughed at him. And like after that, he didn't want the ball ever again. If it did come to him, I didn't even have to tackle him to win it. He was losing it himself. He was tripping on himself, like because all it took was one laugh to get in his head and throw him off his game. Right. So that's what I mean by like if you have a bad mindset, someone can do something on the pitch. For me, it was laughing just once. That threw him off his game. If you have a good mindset, you can have someone talking trash in your ear the whole game, then you can just get better and better with it, right? But it is part of the game when you get to those higher levels. Like it will happen.
True, and it does get worse and worse. What about, you know, in training sessions? Are you and your teammates talking banter each other? And does it ever get to a point where it gets serious?
Um, when we're like training, like and like in the full swing of things, nah, we don't actually like banter each other really like that. Because everyone's just focused like on the task at hand. Because trainings are intense, like everything's so quick, like such a high tempo that you're really just focusing on this, communicating, moving, being involved. But then before training, when you're warming up, or after training when you're cooling down, you're like having a little stretch, then yeah, people like talk trash. Like we're in the rondo. This one guy, Tyler, he comes in every single day. We have keepers that are involved in the rondo. Every time a goalkeeper loses it, he goes, bro, it's always the keepers, man. Like he's like bringing down the keepers, and the keepers like they get so frustrated that they're being singled out, and next thing they're coming at him, and like everyone's like, oh, look at Tyler, he's only so left-footed, like that he can't even give it to his right, and he can't do anything. Like, so they banter each other in like those instances. When you're in the heart of training, no, but like on either end, yeah, like even your teammates are coming for you, right?
True. What about the communication difference of experience, like, you know, growing up and playing in Canada compared to, you know, playing in Wales right now? Do you talk on the pitch? Are you guys screaming, yelling at each other? Are you guys communicating? What's the, the level? What's the difference in level of communication?
Yeah, there's constant communication, right? Whereas in Canada, like you often hear coaches say, "I don't hear anything," right? Whereas here, it's not. It's like in Canada, you might say, "Yeah, pass the ball." Okay, really here it's move here, step up here, drop here, shuffle this way, show him here, show him wide, show him inside, on his left foot, on his right foot, like because people are all paying attention. What's his strong foot? Like where does he like to do? Like how's he like to play? Like your opposition, right? So and everyone's coaching you the whole way along, and you're doing the same. You're communicating to everyone back. Um, but the other thing, funny enough, is that this particular team has a lot of players from everywhere. So we have some players from Uruguay, or some players from Argentina, from Brazil, from Italy, from um, what is it, Albania, Canada, England, Scotland. Like we have a very mixed team, and so a lot of the players speak like Italian or Spanish. And so on the pitch, like we're all communicating, but we're all kind of communicating like in our own languages in a way. So if I'm communicating to the players that speak English, it's easier. It's like press, move here, move there, da da da. When you're speaking to those that are like the Spanish speaking, right? Then you're saying if you have time, instead of saying time, you're saying solo, right? Um, if someone's pressing them, man on, arriba, right? Like so there's always that there's a lot of communication, but it's also very interesting because in Canada or at a lower level, like you're always just with those from a local area, right? Because when you get to a higher level, you're having players from everywhere, all different ethnicities, all different languages, and you're finding a way to communicate between each other on the pitch, and that's a massive difference as well.
True. And how do you find the interactions with these players from different countries? Do you guys have you guys adapted yet, or did it take time to adapt to each other and create a relationship?
Um, we all get along very well. And I think that kind of surprised me in a way, like coming into a team because I've always come into teams where it's like they have their friends, like you know who you're buddy with on the team, and like the new guy comes in and could be a bit difficult to settle in. And then I was realizing that all these guys are speaking different languages that I don't even understand. I was thinking, wow, it's gonna be even harder to adapt. We have our first preseason game. After the game, we're all in the clubhouse, like ping pong, like eating some food, right? Just catching up after the game, and it felt really like family. So they're really good bunch of boys, really accepting, welcoming, and even though there's like that language barrier at times, they still make an effort to communicate, to build a relationship, and it was actually very easy to my surprise to be part of this team and welcomed in with them and build the relationships necessary to want to fight for each other, right?
Nice. All right.